Hi, I'm Caitlin Davis. I'm the La Crosse County Agricultural Extension Educator, and with me today is
Erin Schneider. I co-own and steward Hilltop Community Farm in Laval and Sauk County. And I've also done some contract work with farmland access navigation. So oftentimes like helping farmers who are, beginning farmers mostly think through decisions around land access, including leasing.
and I should mention that my primary focus in the county is in farm management. So I've been doing a lot of work within that different realm. And so Erin and I came together recently and we developed an article on navigating small acreage, high value crops, land leasing.
Yeah. So I guess if people want, can we, if you feel comfortable and you want to put your video on, you're welcome to do that. We really just wanted to, talk about a little, if you had questions about, is anyone looking to lease land, or if you are on the, landowner side of things, like what are some, hi Gretchen.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, same here.
Like what are some questions or just like that are bubbling up for you, just as a starting point?
Well, I am in the process of doing a lease. I had a Amish neighbor that I thought might be interested, and I approached him this summer, and so far so good, but I have not solidified the actual lease. We feel comfortable enough to where he did pay me for a year's lease, and he's mostly doing hay on the farm, but I also have some specialty crops that I kept some land back for, and we're doing some, like, I'm able to get manure from him, and some other little trades here and there. So like he's giving me some hay for mulching and for my chickens, and but I'm basically in the process of trying to form that lease, the paperwork for it. And so that's where I'm just want to make sure I got everything I needed.
Caitlin, do you want me to jump in on that, or what do you?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, otherwise, I mean, I can definitely I know we didn't discuss like who's going to answer what questions.
For Gretchen, I would just offer as Caitlin mentioned, I mean, there's some tools I think about, like, have you had a chance to sit down with your neighbor and just go through, there's some couple of elements of a good lease. Maybe you're familiar with that, or just kind of.
No, we did the soil samples. I mean, right out the gate, he asked me, I mean, when I was watching those videos in the beginning, it's like we were dead on step for step with the ideal conversations that needed to be done. So that all worked out. And now I just need to get everything on paper because he wants to do a 3-year lease. So.
Cool.
I'm just trying to find that resource.
It's okay. Thank you. Yeah.
A lot of times it's, I think often with like perennial or specialty crops, it's very, terms, start and end date, yes, rental rates, yes, and there's a lot of different ways you can do like sliding pay scales, or you could do like in kind. I think you mentioned like hay for mulch. So just like trying to figure out what those negotiation points are. I think if it's something like, I don't know, is there interest in renting specialty cropland as well, or is it just kind of keeping in hay? And I'm seeing some other things too about like types of practices, and if that should also be included, like organic certifications and other things there.
Right. Yes, he is primarily right now interested in hay. So we were going to stick with that for 3 years, and then with the possibility of rotating in maybe some other crops after the initial 3 year, because he's doing some soil building. And I feel pretty comfortable with the lease rate. We went to 135 an acre because he had some soil building that he needed to do, and reseeding, because it's been a while since some of the fields have been seeded to alfalfa, and he's a dairy farmer and would like to focus on alfalfa. And so I don't know, I guess I'm kind of stuck if I should maintain the lease rate that we have for 3 years, or if I should keep that flexible over the 3-year period. Do you foresee rates increasing that much in a 3-year period?
I mean, just kind of looking at like land rental rates just over the last few years, I mean, they've only fluctuated like a few dollars here and there. So, I mean,
Okay.
unless like something dramatic happens, I'm not foreseeing it increasing to like, you know, astronomical, like where you would be losing out, you know, for.
Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'd kind of like to give him the first 3 years to do that soil building and then regroup after that and see how his production is. And I'm maintaining, excuse me, I'm maintaining the organic certification and the paperwork as part of the deal too. Just
Mhm.
because it's easier, so that after 3 years, if this doesn't work out, I'm on board with all the organic, what's been going on as far as his inputs and production. So other than that, I don't I don't have a lot of questions. I just kind of I am looking for resources though. So if you were able to find like templates and things like that that might fit my organic situation. And
There are lots, and Caitlin put that in the chat too, in that article. On the,
great.
yeah, so because a lot of,
I see it. Yep.
yeah. So
Thank you.
sure,
not a
no, thank
problem.
you. Good scenario. And I think you brought up a point that I just wanted to touch on, like with longer term leases, whether it's like 3 or 5, or in Wisconsin 15, or if you wanted to have a rolling lease where it's onward up to 90 years. Oftentimes for the rent, you'll put a provision in there that's like rental adjustment rates. So like you were saying, like let's just be clear about every so many years we're going to check in on this. And if you don't have a specific time and it's at least longer than 10 years, it's kind of pretty much a best practice that every 10 years you're going to have like a check-in on that. So, but you can really do, leases are a really fun place to do that. And so are there other kind of questions that are bubbling up, or resources that people here have that have been really helpful for them? Any lessons learned that you wish you would have known going into something?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a few of those stories, I'm sure.
Well, you know, it's kind of funny because I'm also dealing with, I had a kind of a gentleman's agreement with my neighbor for hunting on part of our land. And little by little over the years, he's added more tree stands and brought in his nephew, and now his son is hunting. And I was in exchange renting part of their barn to store hay in, which, you know, probably 7 years ago or so, the deal was, oh, $500. Well, now I know that hunting leases are much more valuable than $500, and I won't be storing much hay. So I have to renegotiate that, and it's really giving me butterflies in my stomach because I don't want to destroy my relationship with my neighbor, but at the same time, it's not meeting my needs. He doesn't want me in the woods during any of the hunting season. That includes firewood collection, you know, and it's gotten to be a real sticky situation, and it's kind of made me sick to my stomach that I have to address this. But the tips that you gave were very helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, and I mean,
no, go ahead.
Go for it, Erin. Sorry. Okay. I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, it can be a little nerve-wracking, especially when you're doing the whole renegotiation. And I just had a quick question. Is this like written down? Because I know you said it's a gentleman's agreement, or is it more of a verbal?
It's verbal, total verbal.
Okay.
It never was written down. And yeah, like I said, little by little, he's added people and added tree stands and kind of creeped more and more to the north with where he hunts. And I just feel like it's gotten far out of balance, and I need to stop it. And then I had a couple other people that were hunting in our backwoods, and I gave them permission across the road. Well, the neighbor got mad because they were hunting near his tree line or his fence line. And so I had them work that whole issue out. But then I told the other two, I just don't really want to have anybody hunting anymore, which is kind of sad because I have a lot of deer. And so I'm kind of thinking of terminating the neighbor's hunting too. 'Cause he's got 80 acres he could hunt on, but he wants to hunt on my land. So yeah, but it's very, makes me really nervous.
And then maybe that's something that, like, you know, when we're talking about the whole art of negotiation, it's maybe even just sitting down to have that initial conversation of like, well, what are his future plans, you know, for hunting? You know, like where is his bottom line? And then just kind of explain your bottom line too. Like, you know, hey, just kind of, I've noticed that over the years, you know, and maybe that's something too where you can negotiate, like maybe let's get something in writing. Because, you know, especially in the future, if his son and nephew want to continue hunting on the property, you can think of it almost like, you know, when we think about farm succession, well, if they want to continue that, you know, then they're going to have to negotiate with you as well, you know, kind of a situation. And so, and we definitely can give you those resources that we use today too. But yeah, I can see how that can be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Having that initial conversation and just not wanting to step on people's toes or you know, that kind of leading with emotions. But if you go at it with like that business sense and you do that background work, I think that'll definitely help you prepare and make it a little less nervous. And especially too, if you think of it more of like a conversation first, then like I'm kicking you off of my property, you know, kind of a situation.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of just addressing it and saying, you know, I'm really feeling like this relationship isn't meeting my needs anymore. And I've had to remind him multiple times that it's my property. And that's what makes me just shake my head, you know, because he wants to treat it like it's his own and tell me what I can do and can't do up there.
And that sounds like a good plan then. It's definitely establishing, these are my needs, this is my land, and yeah, it's just not fitting for me anymore.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you.
There's a couple of good questions here in the chat as well. And one of them is about just hoping to engage, like, how would you do the cold call? Like you're looking at a long-term lease for like perennial crops. And I think like advice for that initial contact, if you have I would say if you have a phone call, feel free. But before that, what I would do is just to have your, like, what is it you are seeking? Like, here's my background and bio, here's what I'm, you know, just like that. It's almost like putting a little, like, you know, like what would you say in your 30-second elevator speech, but how do you get your land seeking needs down there? Like what's ideal and what are you hoping to offer? So you could do a phone call, and if no response there, like letters, I would go for, and then just a follow-up call, like, hey, just wondering. Yeah, so I don't know, how about for you, Caitlin? Like, how do you navigate that cold call? Or,
yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend that, you know, is just start with that initial phone call, having that elevator speech prepped and ready to go. And then, yeah, I like that whole idea of a letter too, because then it kind of has your needs down in writing.